Our mandate is to fill in the gap in information and capacity development through a dedicated center established in Tehran, and then work with UN Environment, WMO, UNCCD as a coalition partner. The next one is what is most critical, which my colleague Hussein highlighted, but as a part of the coalition work, is the gap in data, information, and knowledge. What we are doing as a part of the coalition member is we took the advantage of the global assessment report, which was brought out by the coalition partners. We brought to a regional assessment, to some extent, a hazard mapping. And then from there, we develop a cloud-based metadata platform where all the hazard, exposure, vulnerability data related to dust and sandstorms are placed in one place and positioned in the cloud. My next slide will say some of the results. This is what I would like to bring to your attention more, particularly because many countries where dust and sandstorms are key issue, there is hardly any database to pinpoint the root causes of dust and sandstorm. What are the economic impacts? Economic impacts in multiple sectors. Dust and sandstorms is unlike earthquake. Impacts are invisible. So you must have the data sets which need to capture the invisible impact of the data set. I will make this presentation in the next technical session, but this is a very important part to pin down the real impact of dust and sandstorm in multiple sectors of the economy. The next slide is just to give a snapshot. What we did when there was a dust and sandstorm hit multiple countries, which I was sharing with you, from Turkmenistan to Afghanistan to Iran, and down the line, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan. So what could be transboundary impact of dust and sandstorm? This is a very important assessment, particularly to build the regional cooperation. This explains the shared vulnerabilities and risk where country can cooperate together. My next slide could be, what is that we are going to do in coming days as a coalition partner? Our first part is to capitalize on UN coalition, all the objectives, you have heard from a regional economic commission perspective. We will try to address particularly information management, capacity development, and build the regional cooperation. Capitalize on regional networks which are already there in North and East Asia. We call NESCAP, North Asia Sub-Regional Program for Environmental Cooperation. Could be similar thing in Southwest and Central Asia. Then establish the regional cooperation mechanisms. Particularly, this is what we were aiming at in South and Southwest Asia, and technical coordination from our institute in Tehran. My next slide is, this is a part of ISCAP regional cooperation mechanism for multi-hazard early warning system. We are part of WMO for tropical cyclone. We are part of UNCCD for tsunami. We will be part of UN coalition for slow onset disaster, and to start with sand and dust storm. So this is not just a project in UNSCAP, it's a part of our program, regional cooperation for multi-hazard early warning system with multiple partners. So this is now integrated as a ISCAP work program activities. My next slide is what is our little long-term perspective as a coalition partner. Our idea is to deepen the regional cooperation in Asia Pacific, particularly to start with Central Asia, Southwest Asia. And once it matures, we will collaborate with ESCWA, Economic Commission for West Asia, East Asia, and then becomes part of a global coalition in due course of time. I think my last slide is, we had a meeting last week on to support this meeting, today's meeting in Bangkok. And we came out with 4 key recommendations. You can see the meeting participants, they mostly coalition partner in some of our member countries. The next slide, that is the last slide, is we brought out the 4 key areas which we would like to address with our coalition partner. One is the regional risk assessment. If there are a global risk assessment, we can be part of the risk assessment as a regional component of the global program. The second is a regional action plan, which is essentially regional cooperation in Southwest and Central Asia. The third is a database availability. The point which I was trying to highlight, for SDG or Sendai monitor, there is not much available to report the progress with regards to sand and dust storm mitigation. And then we plan to organize expert dialogue very regularly based on the assessment. And finally, my colleagues from WMO, the SDS was, can we make it something with the impact-based forecasting in Central Asia, Southwest Asia? This is area we can think of. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjay. And we have now heard from different perspectives what is happening in this coalition, what the different partners are doing. Now it's over to you in the audience to ask questions, share observations, provide comments, ideas for the coalition. And I think we have a roving microphone. If you want to ask a question, please also briefly introduce yourself. And we have a hand up over there, please. Thanks, Hossein.
Nigeria.
Thank you. I am Mr. Balaharun Agukut from Nigeria. So I want to thank all the panelists for their presentations. And my question will just go to the last presenter. I can see that your presentation dwells only on what you have presented, and the African region, nothing has been mentioned about it. I don't know what's your plan towards that.
Let me see if there's any other questions at this stage. Otherwise, we'll give it back to the panel. Anyone else? Going, gone. Okay, one more over there. What's it?
Yeah.
Okay, good morning. I come from Mexico. I don't know if you know Mexico, but little more than 50% is arid land. But now this increasing the arid to hyper-arid. And I want to make a question about the relationship between Mexican government with the WM organization, because in the map Mexico is absent, but probably the point is representative to contact person. I don't know.
Okay, let's give it back to the panel first. Sanjay, could you say a bit more about what is happening in Africa? I know you're the Economic Commission for Asia Pacific, so maybe there's other panelists who are better placed to answer that, but since the question was addressed to you. And then also if any of you would like to add would like to address the question from Mexico. Let's start with Sanjay.
Thank you, distinguished.
You have to hold the microphone very close. It's
distinguished delegate from Nairobi, if I'm correct.
Nigeria.
Nigeria, right. Sorry. This is because I come from Economic Commission from Asia and Pacific. Our idea is we must demonstrate some concrete example in Asia Pacific and then collaborate with our sister organization, that is Economic Commission for Africa, located in Addis Ababa. So our partnership with Economic Commission Addis Ababa and then UN Environment Office, UNCCD in Africa is yet to happen. So this is just a beginning from the region. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, yes, please.
Yes, may I add something about the Nigeria, the question from Nigeria? WMO is working now with the Barcelona node on developing a warning forecast for provinces in Burkina Faso. So they are now regularly delivered this sun and dust warning. We plan to expand in the coming months to other countries in Western Africa. And we perhaps contact NIMET, your Met agency, in order to bring the perspectives to display. We have also the possibility, well, the Spanish corporation has the possibility to deploy low-cost sensors, aerosol sensors, in order to calibrate the product. So we are working in that direction in Western Africa. And back to Mexico, the question. The government of Mexico has a cooperation with Canada and United States. It's part of the North American Drought Monitor. So there is the cooperation on drought conditions. But in terms of sun and dust, there is no core, there's only research activity, not operational activities developed yet in that area. We acknowledge there is a lot of dry lands in southern United States and Mexico, and we need to cope with it.
Thank you. One point from the floor there.
Thank you so much for the great presentations. Amazing effort from Ucheng and from Hussein, and I applaud you guys for this effort, and I hope this coalition will be able to achieve what's meant for. It's a very important effort. Like as an academic, I'm a professor in university, and part of the work that we are doing, we are looking into the impacts of sand and dust storms. And probably some of the audience might not be aware of the great scale of the impact of these issues, at different levels and different sectors. In the second session, I'm going to be presenting about some of the impacts, and I promise my colleague from Africa that I'm going to be presenting a lot about Africa. So that will take care of this point. My question to the platform, what can we do as a scientific community, or what can we do as other players or other stakeholders in order to make sure that the message is well heard, and to get the support, and to get, I wouldn't say the word validation, but to get the support from different nations and different countries, and to really see the extent of the impact of sand and dust storms. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I ask if there is any other question from the floor at this stage? Otherwise, I'll give it to the panel for closing remarks. Martin, you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Martin Capel at UN Environment Program. Just in response to the distinguished delegate from Nigeria, and seconding what Jose Camacho at WMO said, at UNEP we have been developing a global assessment a few years ago, which does include important section on sand and dust storms in Africa. And as WMO said as well, we worked closely on this effort with the Barcelona Dust Forecast Center, the supercomputer center that has been very active in this regard. So we're happy to share with you that information and reference, so to update you on that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. And any other points from the floor, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday in CAO meeting, I had a briefing about what we are doing about sand and dust storms in Iran. You know, there is more than 65 years of background in stabilization of sand dunes hotspots, and more than 2.5 million hectares of this kind of hotspot has been stabilized, and it is protecting our socio-economic infrastructures and infrastructures in desert lands of Iran or arid lands of Iran. And there is a great technology, and we have a lot of experience in receiving delegations from other countries and sharing our knowledge. And Also, we have visited projects in other countries, especially in China, in many other countries. You know, we are completely prepared to any kind of cooperation with coalition. One thing that I think is very necessary for sand dunes projects around the world now is that we have to see the problem in an inclusive way as a comprehensive project. You know, we have our own development plan in the country, which all sectors are giving their own sectoral development plan, and it is incorporated in development program of the country for 5 years, and we have done that. But as you know, STS problem has a very close connection with water, with infrastructures development, and many other sectors, and farming, agriculture, you know, especially water ground in arid lands, which nowadays is going down, and because of shortage of water, because of extension of agriculture land, because of drying of wetlands, you know, as a result, and also because of climate change. As a result, now thinking of a 100% success in controlling of STS just with restoration project, sand dune fixation project cannot be achieved, and it needs an inclusive approach. And I think as the UNCCD supported countries in preparing and developing some plans for mitigation of drought, for mitigation of, for LDN, this should be supported by UNCCD, especially for those countries which are lacking such a kind of plan, especially when you support preparing such a kind of a multi-purpose document. Government care about this and put it in priority, and it is another emphasis for government that they should care holistically and see the problem holistically, and it is very important. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that important point, to have an integrated approach and see the problem holistically: land use planning, agriculture, water, irrigation. There's a lot of sectors and aspects that impact on the emergence of sand and dust storms, and that in turn are impacted by sand and dust storms. And the transboundary issues, very important as well, the transboundary issues and the issues of South-South collaboration, where countries can learn from each other. You mentioned the stabilization of sand dunes, which is an important aspect where some countries might, like Iran, might have more experience, other countries might have more experience in other areas. So thank you for that important reminder. We're coming close to the end of the session. I would like to give each panelist a chance to have a few closing remarks, including for UNEP from our side, how we hope to support the coalition, and then we'll break for coffee. Sanjay, starting with you this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have just one point to share with our colleagues. I'm happy that my colleagues from North and East Asia are here. Regional cooperation, it matters a lot. We brought out in our report, Asia Pacific Disaster Report, North and East Asia. You know, you have a source region, you have impacted regions. And if there are collaboration among the country, among the agencies, multi-sectoral collaboration, we brought out, I think, with all kind of evidences available from the multiple satellite data, what was the source region status in 2002, 2003, and what it is now. There is a huge change thanks to the initiative like GREET, the ecosystem restoration program, GREAT, Wall of China program, Great Green Wall of China program. So these interventions are not only one country interventions, say interventions of multiple countries. And it has brought down dust and sandstorm, the particulate matter concentration in atmosphere very substantially. It's very well documented in our report. The similar collaboration, if we take up in other part of the world, I think we can see some visible impact. It's a monitoring, then interventions together of source region, impacted regions, and that makes a lot of difference.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. That's an important point about the value of collaboration. And handing over to Jose from WMO.
Well, it's closing words and something that's starting is hard to express, no? Thank to everybody for the attention, for thank the UN Environment and the other colleagues the opportunity to work together in that important issue, and let's go for it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, to close, I mean, I would like to pick up the science-related questions as UNCCD. Actually, this UNCCD is a policy-making process. Then definitely we would need concrete science information to develop or shape any policies to deal with these standard systems. Looking at this all, I mean, the research department, how they deal with the standard system issue, that I can find very good number of good examples or researches related to monitoring source or modeling forecasting related topics. But if you look at turn to the other topics related to standard management, for example, risk assessment, economic impact assessment, polarity mapping, polarity assessments, all of things, then I would say almost nothing. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I believe that I'm talking about truth. So this motivates us to develop to the compendium. So this compendium will include different informations, talking about just what I mentioned, the different topics. Actually, this contains 12 different topics on how we could generate informations and input to the policy making and the implementation of those policies. So yes, I would like to stress the role of the scientists and academic group to for their contribution to in a global, a coalition to address ascendant those terms. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to all of you for your time and interest in this new coalition and for your thoughts and your feedback. I would like to pick up on two issues. One is the sharing of experience and expertise. I, on one hand, agree that yes, there is need for more scientific research. On the other hand, the phenomena are not new. And people on the ground had to deal with them for a long time already. And I really appreciate the inputs from Iran. And I think it's one of the first necessary actions to share more widely what we know already works. I'm thinking more concretely that the UNCCD has established a data bank of successful sustainable land management practices with WOCAT at the University of Bern. I would propose that that database is being expanded to more explicitly include good practices on how to deal with sand and dust storms. For instance, the issue that you mentioned, dealing with sand dunes. The second issue that I would like to pick up on is what was mentioned, to look at it from an integrated approach. We very often find that there are a lot of efforts already ongoing at national and also sub-regional levels. The trick and the challenge here is to bring the necessary pieces to the solution better and more effectively together. From our perspective, there is a great opportunity, as I mentioned earlier this morning, to integrate sand and dust storm related priorities in the national voluntary land degradation neutrality targets, so that they are being implemented with a particular focus on STS related issues wherever they are most prominent. So I think with those few remarks, I really look forward to working with everybody, not only UN agencies in this coalition, but really with all stakeholders that are interested and willing to contribute to tackling these phenomena. Thank you.
Thank you, and your comments have prompted Uchang to respond. I think he wants to say something in addition.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, actually, I mean, I'm feeling more and more UNDP is advocating UNCCD very much, so I completely agree with you what you